Hey guys, Dark Humility straight from the Mad Lab in the Season 12 closed beta for Project Diablo 2. We've got here a Fire Golem Necromancer. Now I've made a video on this in the past, but let's be honest, it was a little scuffed, and there's actually better options now in Season 11 and now in Season 12. Chat helped me kind of, I would say, min-max his build as much as possible. So my Twitch chat,
tell that I'll be your best friend in this.
my Twitch chat helped us lab this out big time. Okay, so they gave all kinds of ideas like Epiphany and Rain, and also they helped me understand exactly how the fire golems work when summoned and exactly how to min-max how powerful they can get with the percent fire damage large terms and percent fire damage in general in terms of pre-buffing them and exactly how they work. So this is a pretty mechanically heavy build, but hopefully we're able to show it off and explain how it works pretty quick here. And then we're going to do some mapping demos. This build, let's just say this build is not only insanely strong, but it has insane survivability. It is really tough to die on this build. Especially if maybe you increase the blood warp up to like 0.8 seconds instead of 0.6, which we'll explain here in a moment what that means and why it's important. But we're of course going to show him off, and he's pretty freaking awesome. So we'll start of course with the stats, skills, mercenary, and gear, and we'll talk about some of the mechanics that really make this function. One thing you will have to tolerate though, just ahead of time, so trigger warning, is that there is some minor pre-buff to min-max how powerful the golems can be, at least for tier 3 mapping. You want to do tier 2 and tier 1, you're perfectly willing and ready to do it, and you probably don't need any pre-buff whatsoever, and this build can just rely almost exclusively on rune words, which is pretty cool. So anyway, let's show them off. We got stats, enough strength to wear the gear, and then you dump the rest into energy. Energy on a necromancer gives you bone armor, so it gives you more bone armor per point into energy, which will make you very tanky versus physical damage. On top of that, on this build, it's going to make you really tanky versus elemental damage as well, and we'll show that off with the gear. So very good stuff. And then of course you have max res. Try to go for max res if possible. Other stats not too important. Res good. DR percent kind of doesn't matter too much, but the more DR you have might help if you lose the bone armor. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You won't lose the bone armor nearly as often if you go a slightly different approach on this build, which we'll kind of talk about as well, which is where you're using a different armor rune word instead of the one we are using. Then you might need to not worry about that at all. But overall, it can be somewhat important, not insanely important though, given that we have energy shield, and we'll explain why. So energy shield makes DR not super important. On top of that, we actually have a lot of flat DR from our amulet, so we're even more tanky in that way. Hit recovery is good, so you can kind of smoothly teleport between packs on your Fire Golem Necromancer, and cast rate is good for faster casting of bone armor, and a bit smoother casting of the initial cast on Blood Warp, among other things like resummoning the golems, but there's a lot of cooldowns, so cast rate is not super essential. You could go like 48, you could go probably even lower than that. You're mostly going to be limited by your Blood Warp cooldowns, so don't worry too much about cast rate, but I do like it for some casts. It does kind of smooth some things out. FHR, pretty good. And then most of your sustain is going to be from Phoenix, which is Redemption Aura. Also, of course, if you're not on the beta, you can use mana and life potions if your mana and life get low, so you don't have to be chugging juice. I do like to, when I show off builds in beta though, I just chug juice because you can infinitely spawn them, but do keep that in mind. You can just use normal potions and buy them from the vendor, and it'll be just fine. And before you do your map, just load up on a few potions and you should be fine for pretty much the whole map, and it'll be good. And you can also stack Magic Find. Magic Find can always be good, of course, but it's obviously not necessary to make the build function, particularly in tier 3 maps where you can get a lot of Magic Find from the map itself. but Magic Find will always make you find more stuff. Alright, skills. You just max out Fire Golem and all the damage synergies. And of course, Golem Mastery gives you the 5 golems, so that's pretty key. And then of course the other thing that's important is Blood Warp. Now, what I didn't really understand until Twitch chat helped me understand is that you really need a very kind of specific window of a cooldown between 0.6 and 0.8 on this, so that you can just hold down the right click button and teleport, so that the holy fire aura from the fire golems ticks at the same rate that you're moving, so you're actually keeping up with it. So it's kind of a technical thing, but you don't want to like max out Blood Warp on this build like you might on a standard Necromancer build. So that is kind of interesting. Also, it helps with the Phoenix sustain as well. That also ticks at roughly the same rate the Redemption. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. And then you put the rest of the points into bone armor. At least make sure you have 1 point into bone armor. Also optional if you're a bit weaker and you don't have as much gear as we have. There's obviously a lot of like lower gear options that you can use in lower tier maps, and also you'll also want to point to lower resist. You can use this in between casts while you're waiting for this cooldown to expire. The Blood Warp, you can just use lower resist, and you can make monsters die faster as you teleport through the map. So that is optional because you can get enough damage on your golems without that with the pre-buff that is available. We'll show that off though, of course, and that's it. Alright, so Mercenary. Mercenary is pretty simple. Act 2 Mercenary. Don't need anything too special, just Defiance helps out defense of the Mercenary and the golems and yourself. And then you go Infinity, Flickering Flame for the flat fire damage. You do need to summon the fire golems while this is active on you because it will actually make them stronger. Kind of interesting. So you can't just summon them in town, I guess, if you want to min-max that. I guess that's the case. So that's kind of cool. So that's neat. And then, of course, we have Infinity, Shaft, Lava Gouts, String of Ears, and Gore Riders. So just, Lava Gouts give a bit of enchant damage, nothing too crazy, but gives them a bit more, and mostly just survivability on the Mercenary from that point. But these are really the two key items here. So yeah, that's pretty good. And then your gear. So this setup is pretty crazy, and so this is what we're going to be showing you guys in these demos here. So this, you do need a Phoenix no matter what on a Fire Golem Necromancer, 100%. Why? You need the Redemption Aura, you need the sustain. There's no other way to get it because LPK, MPK, and Life Leech will not proc off of summons. They will apply to the summons but not to you. They are considered a separate entity. This is also why the negative enemy fire resist stat, even though it exists on this Phoenix, does nothing. So that doesn't do anything. You need that for sustain. So it has to be a shield or a weapon. But what's interesting is in Season 11, this came onto the scene, Epiphany. So Epiphany gives you energy shield. And not only that, it's fully synergized energy shield. So it's level 18 telekinesis as well. And so this means that your mana is going to be doing something pretty good for you here. So your mana is going to be doing some work. Now, that's good because you got a max energy for bone armor anyway. And on top of that, energy shield will block both types of damage, physical and elemental. And if you have bone armor on currently, it'll block all the elemental damage before, so your mana is not going to drain too fast to begin with. And on top of that, you revive both life and mana with Phoenix, so the life will be draining using Blood Warp, of course. And then on top of that, the mana that you lose from ES going to be also restoring at the same time. And so this also gives, mana on hit, which is pretty solid. You know where else? And increased maximum mana. You know where else you can get that? Rain. Mana when hit. So that's a stat that increases the efficiency of energy shield. So it's like telekinesis. And so you're getting extra points on top of that. Plus you got 141 mana on the armor. So you get even more mana. And then this gives Cyclone armor when struck, which only affects elemental damage. So you have one that only affects elemental damage that is also being boosted by energy. That's how it works on a druid too. It will proc when you're struck. You're supposed to jump into the monsters. You also have bone armor, which only works at physical damage, and you have ES that works for both. If you have like flat DR like on an amulet like this one, or flat MDR on top of that, you'll be almost invincible, which is crazy. So that is pretty insane. Almost invincible. And then on top of that, of course, we got, you know, this item here basically gives us a bunch of res, gives us some of our FCR, and then we have, you know, just FCR basically, plus skills. Honestly, anything that can give you mana, you could even go like Frostburns to get more mana. Marowak, instead of that, goes Silk Weaves, and you can get like more percent mana. I just did this for CBF on the beta. But you can do the exact same thing though, which is really effective. And yeah, Epiphany also gives 30 MF, which is also really good. But yeah, these are all pretty insane. But like I said, you could go even higher on the mana, and that will make your ES even more effective. So you can become insanely tanky here. That being said though, the ES isn't like a super high level, so if your bone armor drops, you can die, so you're gonna have to watch that. So alternatively, you can use the armor bone, which procs bone armor when struck, so you don't have to proc it as much yourself. It's a little scary though in hardcore, because if it doesn't proc fast enough though, you could die anyway. So always be ready to use the bone armor when it runs out. And then of course CTA, lidless on swap, pretty basic stuff for battle orders and battle command, boosts your life and mana. And so rest of it is pre-buff gear. So this is how fire golems work. So percent fire damage on top of plus skills are the way. So you want as much percent fire damage. So only the percent part of a fire facet will work here, for instance. And obviously plus skills down here from summon necro skills and percent fire LCs. I could actually eke out a little bit more damage on my golems if I used a little bit more LCs, but then I have to swap them out for the summon GCs so I have enough points into Blood Warp. So I don't really like all that pre-buff, so instead I just use one LC and swap it out down here, which I actually don't even need to swap out really. I have enough life. I could just keep it down here, and then we're pretty much good to go. I have enough life and a res, and then I just have to swap out 4 pieces of gear, cast the golems, and then bow them, and then we're good to go. And then of course reset this gear. So we just have to swap out this. The rest is all plus skills anyway, and you're good to go. That's all you gotta do. All you gotta do. And yes, mage fists do give 1 point to fire golems, so that's one reason we're using that as well. So that's more plus skills, and that's it. So it's just plus skills, rain, phoenix, epiphany. Yes, you can make phoenix into a weapon if you didn't know this. And yes, very good. As you can see here, lots of fire facets, +4 to fire golem, +3 to fire golem,
I can already
lots of fire
tell that I'll be
facets.
your best friend in
So
this forsaken
you can get crafts that do this, blue items can do this, rares can do this. Might have to shop some wands, pick them up, that kind of thing, but you can do it 100%. So you can shop these wands, you can do a lot. Definitely get wands. Shopping wands is pretty doable. The shield will be a little tougher. You can gamble these pretty easily, so these aren't too unobtainable, and you can get a lot more damage on your golems. Alright, so at any rate, you know, you got Torch, Annie, you know, you got summon GCs, and then I got faster hit recovery too, so for when I'm hit, I hit that decent break for it. Alright, so now I feel like we're good to do. So damage gain as mana is not too bad though. I mean, it's pretty good. So it's basically extra damage reduction, but only for the mana, so that's pretty good. Let's not emphasize too much, but all the mana is actually pretty crazy, plus the cyclone armor when struck. One thing I also didn't mention is the static field when struck. Static field with conviction on the mercenary means that you're going to be doing like a huge portion of the monster's health just by jumping into them. So that's pretty crazy stuff. Alright, without further ado, let's actually show this in action, because this video has already been going for almost 15 minutes, and we haven't even been showing how the build freaking works, right? I mean, that's almost a crime in of itself, right? So first, like I said, just pre-buff 4 items. That's all you really got to do. If you want to go crazy, you could swap out some fire skill LCs for a few of your summon necro charms. It kind of depends on how many plus skills you have, so gonna have to check the holy fire damage down here on the tooltip, and you'll be good to go on that. And then you just swap these items back in. You don't like pre-buff, sorry, be triggered, it is what it is. And then you can even test how many kills you get per minute if you want. And let's get it going. So all you do is cast bone armor in between. You'll notice though, look at that static, man, that's crazy. It procs pretty often as long as I jump into them. Yeah, it gets static, insta-static. Just jump right into the monsters. And you see that the health is going down mostly from blood warp, but besides that, you don't really got to do much. The cyclone armor, the bone armor, and the energy shield will all protect us from every type of damage that can happen in the game. This isn't League of Legends, there's no true damage, so I think you'll be fine. Get bone armor. Sorry, Twitch chat, by the way. The stream has been struggling here and there, so it looks like it's fine again for now, at least. The video will be fine, though. I'm recording it, so it's good. What's up, guys? We'll watch it on YouTube later. Look at that static, man. Whew. Look at that. Just eat up those hits, man. They just instantly die. So Epiphany is a damage item too, to some extent, right? Not just for survivability, but yeah, if static doesn't proc, it means they already died. Exactly. That's just how strong it is. And you just gotta hold down right click. That's all you gotta do. Hold down right click, you know, make sure the bone armor sustains at a certain level. And good to go, man, pretty much. You can see just how impressive that is. Look at that. 10,847. Let's see, you know, if I pulled up the calculator here, let's see how strong that is in roughly 2 minutes of kills if you count the backtracking there. So look at this, look at this, look how strong this is. This is crazy. This is definitely one of the strongest builds. This is not a meme. 754 kills in roughly 2 minutes of gameplay. 754 over 127. That's crazy. So, really cool stuff. Basically tied with the last result I got, which is really neat. Let's go show them off in Fledge-a-thon as well. Notice how I really didn't have to chug any potions or anything, so it's pretty cool. No potion chugging on this build, which is always, you know, it's a problem if you don't have that timing down on the blood warp. You don't have to chug any potions, and just gotta make sure the bone armor stays up, because you can die if the bone armor goes down, it's possible. But if you get enough, like, flat DR, I don't know, maybe. Maybe you can become almost invincible. Oh wait, oops. I forgot to pre-buff. So I didn't. One thing you could also do is before you leave the game, you gotta re-pre-buff them every game unless you put on your pre-buff gear, and then you don't have to do that. That being said, though, you do get an extra 1 skill from the CTA, so you probably should just pre-buff it anyway. It's not that huge of a deal. Let's check to make sure it's on. Almost went for the fire golems without doing that. And just put on Phoenix, Epiphany, Rain. Rain is a druid item, but it doesn't matter. The Cyclone Armor and Bone Armor both work together to make you insane. You already procced the Cyclone Armor. That's kind of crazy. I was only in there for like half a second. Alright, 120 start. Let's do it. Gonna go for roughly 320 here. Hopefully don't screw up and I'll have to add a little bit of time for a 2-minute test. Look how tanky I am. So tanky. The only damage we take basically is from the Blood Warp itself. Now remember how I mentioned how you could go down to 0.8? 0.8 would mean that you would move a little bit slower. And that'll give Redemption a bit more time typically to keep up with you. So you can go like 0.8, 0.6. You could even go 1 second if you want. That's probably okay. So you got ES, Cyclone Armor, and Bone Armor all working together. And you have a ton of Bone Armor. Remember, the energy actually boosts Cyclone Armor and Bone Armor to a huge degree. Oh, I went the wrong direction. Okay, that's bad. I guess I'll add like 7 seconds or something. That's cool. So this utilizes the new rune word from Season 11, which was fixed in Season 12. And it also utilizes very precise mechanics on the Fire Golems. And the Fire Golem buffs from, I think, one of the previous seasons as well. It utilizes a lesser known rune word, which is Phoenix Weapon instead of Phoenix Shield. You can't make Epiphany in a weapon. So, you have to make the Phoenix in the weapon. And the Phoenix, look at that static, man. That's freaking nuts. This definitely utilizes a rune word that a lot of people might have slept on for a little bit, you know. Okay, we'll add we went a little bit over there in time, but that's okay. We'll account for that. Let's calculate it. Let's see how many monsters per minute we got here. We'll divide by something that's a bit higher than 2, and it should be pretty good. I think since we went over about, we'll do like 2.15, I think. We'll call that good. Wow. My goodness. That is insane, actually. Actually, wait, it went a little bit. I should probably do like 2, honestly. 2.2. Yeah, because that's how much time it was. Never mind. 2.2. Yeah, 2.2 maybe. Yeah, all right. So what do we got? 781. 782 over 148. That is insane. Okay. Well, there you have it. Crazy, right? All right, let's go test the last map, Throne of Insanity. Another map that's really dangerous in another tier 3. Feels like I'm walking through, just walking to work, man. Nothing's going on here, man. This is pretty easy. Click on that Throne of Insanity map and get going. Dude, this is like one of the coolest things we've discovered in testing. This is neat. Very cool. Alright, so once again, let's pop 4 items. That's all I really recommend. Just try to get as many skills and facets, % fire damage as possible on them. This is why we use the Ormus as well. Just tons of % fire damage.
I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp.
And then you just do this, and then, yep. Level 52 fire golems. Keep in mind with corruption, so in the closed beta, I'll give a disclaimer that I always give every season when I show off a video from the closed beta. You cannot use corruptions in the closed beta, so in live you can, so you can get a lot more plus skills, potentially more fire facets, so you can make them even stronger. Every build we test and showcase, though, you can make stronger, so whether it has a survivability issue or otherwise, you can always solve it just by maybe getting the right sustain stats or survivability stats, and you'll be good to go. That being said, you're good to go. Go bow that. And go throw on the gear. Ready to go. That's all I need to do. 140, 145 here. Wow. Now, you could also use Dominion for a 6th Golem, but then you can't use Epiphany, so you don't have ES. You'll have to go Dominion Phoenix, so you can get a bit more damage that way too, and let's say your build's a little different. Dominion's that new rune word that gives you an extra Golem. You would cast that after you do the pre-buff though, and you wouldn't want a weapon swap, otherwise it'll remove a random Golem, so keep that in mind. Got 145. Look how tanky this is, man. Oh, the Mercenary's dying a bit. Watch his health. In between casts, remember I already have a cooldown on Blood Warp anyway, so you may as well cast that bone armor here and there, you know? Between casts, there's no, you don't really lose anything by doing that, nothing at all. This is why I like the Cyclone armor better than bone armor, because you can do that. If you want to play it really dad build style though, forget about the Cyclone armor, you still got ES, you still got bone armor, and then on top of that, you can get it when struck, and then you don't even really have to cast it much at all. You might have to use some more juice though. Look at the monsters just melt. Static Field doing some serious work too. It's making the procs a bit more clean. Static Field when struck off Epiphany. In a sense doesn't proc when struck, it only procs when striking, so that's not really an improvement either. And of course you could also go for higher blood warp, you could go like Trang armor, there's a bunch of things you can do. But yeah, look at these giant numbers you get. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Big giant numbers. And that was in just over 2 minutes. So we'll make sure we catalog that a bit there. Maybe 2.05 and then 720 over 134 density. And that is on the data sheet. Oh my goodness. Chat, that is crazy. YouTube, that's crazy. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Combining the unknown rune word in the game, the often forgotten Phoenix sword or weapon. Combining a new rune word from Season 11 that is fixed now in Season 12. And combining just smart mechanics, summoning the fire golems with a lot of plus skills and % fire damage. So you don't need the negative fire damage on the facets, which is awesome. You just need the % as high as possible. Swap them out, get some nice gear. You could even use Shaco. You don't need the FCR, remember I mentioned that. Use Shaco for Magic Find. You could put Magic Find here, Magic Find here. You could put a lot of Magic Find. Instead, I just like to showcase it with a bit more FCR. Like I said, for a little bit of quality of life on a couple skills like bone armor casting. Showed off, of course, plus skills down here. Lots of mana, right? And remember, if you go down FCR, it's fine. You can use Frosties. You can get tankier. You can get tankier with this too, with Silkweeds, or you can use Travs for Magic Find. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. And then, you know, you could use Magic Find down here too if you put points into Blood Warp and then you just swap it out. I don't like swapping out charms though. That, to me, that's excessive pre-buff, unfun pre-buff. You really don't want to go that hard, I think, before you run a map on a build. I wouldn't do it. I think most people wouldn't do it. It's pretty complex. Kind of ruins the whole like dad build vibe as well if you're doing too much of that. And you just want to press a button and go. And there you have it. Anyway, guys, so the new season, Season 12 Suffering, it starts November 28th, which is a Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Remember to use Google to convert to your local time, and you'll be good to go. We'll see you guys in some more mini guides and demos. And, of course, remember to check out all my mini guides and demos from Season 10 and 11, most of which are also still very relevant. And of course, we'll give you ideas for what to build for Season 12. And of course, we'll be launching a bunch for Season 12 as well. And of course, look out for the tier list and infographic and other core guides for understanding core game concepts like starting builds and other things as well. I'll see you guys in the next one. Dark Humility over now. Let's get it. Let's smash it in Season 12.